Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the FlyWoo CineRace 20. This version is the analog pro version. It also comes in a straight analog and a version with the DJI Vista in it. Down inside it's got the Goku all-in-one. It's the 405S. It's a 20 amp all-in-one. VTX that you might be able to see down there is power switchable, and it goes clear up to 850 milliwatts. And powering the quad is the 1203 3400 kV motors with Gym Fan 2-inch 5-bladed props. Mine came with crossfire, so I have my crossfire receiver and my T antenna. Also comes with a circular polarized, that is right-hand circular polarized antenna. The mount back here that holds the crossfire antenna as well as the analog video antenna is all a TPU print. We have a super sticky FlyWoo battery pad, a silicone strap, and the Caddx Baby Retail 2 FPV camera. We have an XT30 for our battery connection. We also have a connection for a naked GoPro or an SMO 4K. In my videos, I use the Insta360 Go 2. My kit came with 2 extra sets of props, 3 different action camera mounts. Check your product listing to make sure those come with your kit. Some washers, an extra sticky battery pad, an extra foam pad for the bottom, extra screws and nylon nuts, and an extra battery strap. And let's not forget 2 stickers. It weighs just about 103 grams. For faster flying, I use this 300 milliamp 4S battery. And with that battery, it comes up to 141.25 grams. When we add the Insta360 Go 2, it comes up to 167.75 grams. For slow, cruisy sort of flight, I use this 900 milliamp 4S battery, which brings the weight up to just about 220 grams. The ducts do come in extra colors. And do notice that the top of this duct is flanged out or flared out for a little bit of a different shape. And you also see how it connects here to the center. So there is no carbon fiber that connects between the ducts. The ducts connect to the carbon fiber. So it goes together a little bit like this. Also, this foam pad on the bottom helps protect the USB port by just a couple of millimeters, so be careful when you're landing. FlyWoo is also introducing this super tiny GPS model, the FlyWoo GM8 Mini, which is a version 2. And that module weighs 4.7 grams. On the box it says 4.6 grams. So we're going to start off with the 300 milliamp 4S battery from FlyWoo. This is my faster flight. And this is going to show you kind of its capabilities of what at least what I can make it do in a faster flight. You know, it's called a CineRace quad or whoop, whatever you want to call this sort of thing, but it is titled as official product of a CineRace, and 20 being the prop size of 2-inch. Now this doesn't show it, but I'll show it in a picture-in-picture back at the desk, is that if you pick up like a full head of steam and you try to do a snap 180-degree turn, you do get kind of a disbalance. It will almost like some of you remember back when it was quite a while ago, but when you had a PID tuning problem, how it would drop an arm. So keep an eye out for another PID tune that might come out from FlyWoo on this. They did that with their last product. They came out with a new tune after the fact. So that could be just a tuning deficit. But I notice it pretty consistently when I get going along that back fence line and then I try to do a snap left-hand turn, you know, a hard 180 turn, that one side of the quad would kind of dip. Well, typically we call that dropping an arm. But otherwise, it handled the flight that I put it through for faster, sort of racy, and a little bit of a freestyle-y sort of flight just fine. Of course, it doesn't fly light. That's the nature of this quad. You know, you get a whoop this size. They don't fly like whoops that are, you know, 20 to 30 grams lighter. And in this flight, I am flying with the Insta360 Go 2, so I have that extra about 30 grams on it as well. Of course, you could take that 30 grams off, you'll get longer flight time, and you'll also get more aggressive and agile sort of flight out of it. But typically with these, the primary purpose is to have an action camera on them. I would suspect that the digital version flies a lot like the analog version with an action camera already mounted to it. Something to consider if you're looking at this and you're thinking about getting the DJI or the Caddx Vista version. Also on that version, they are touting that as having a Caddx Polar Mini camera or Nano camera, which is a camera I haven't seen yet, so that'll be fairly interesting when that comes out. Speaking of coming out, as I record this, I don't exactly know the price. I know that we'll have the 3 different versions, so I'll have links down in the video description to whoever has it on launch day. I hope that resellers have it. Hopefully they're not en route. At the very least, I guess we'll just link back to FlyWoo's website. They'll certainly have it on their site on launch day. This flight, again, is on that 300 milliamp 4S battery from FlyWoo, and it gets us a flight time of 3 minutes and 6 seconds. I do run the battery down to where when I disarm, the battery comes back to 3.5 volts per cell. That's always my consistent sort of look of flight time and battery management. Other people like to fly and have their batteries land at storage voltage 3.85, but that's really up to you. You know, I'll charge mine to storage on my own. But there you go. You see the end of our flight, 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Just like I said, we go back to the home screen and we see the battery start to recover as it flashes there at us at 3.5 volts per cell. So battery is in good shape. This is a sample of our slow cruisy flight, and with the slow cruisy flight, you're usually looking for the most possible flight time. And the flight time with the 900 milliamp 4S battery, I got 9 minutes and 38 seconds. And that's, of course, is with carrying the Insta360 Go 2 in my environment. Flight times are going to vary a little bit, to a degree, but I don't think you're going to be getting too much more than 10 minutes. Say you take off the Insta360 Go 2, you might get 10.5 minutes. You might push that 11-minute marker, but I don't think you'll get to 12, unless you find some sort of magic battery. But of course, I am flying that FlyWoo 900 milliamp 80C rated. Not that C ratings mean anything on our batteries anymore. 4S battery that they sent to me to test it out with. Let's jump farther down and let's switch over to the analog so that you can see some of the flight stats here on screen that we typically see. This is our view in the goggles with the Caddx Baby Retail camera and that VTX. This is kind of the last minute of the flight, just to give you some sort of idea of how I'm flying it, how it appears in the goggles, and also some of the battery stats so that you know that I'm not just blowing smoke that I got 9 minutes and 38 seconds, but I actually show you that I got 9 minutes and 38 seconds. Something I always like to do, even though I'm not showing the whole flight, which is my preference, but I understand that, you know, time is limited. Everybody's got a certain amount of time to take in their research or their entertainment, whichever you're watching this video for. So I'm trying to eliminate some of the super long flights and just give you the information about the super long flights. But as you can see there, we've now landed. Come in 9 minutes and 38 seconds, and our battery is going to be in good shape at, again, 3.5 volts per cell. So I had several crashes, and I showed one in the intro there, which is kind of a funny thing. And this foam around the outside edge, as I showed you with these other two, the foam comes pre-installed on these. So if you didn't want the foam on there, you're going to have to peel it off. Not a big deal. I think most of us have fingers or something we can grab a hold of that foam and pull it off if you wanted it off for some reason. But something else that my main concern with this is that USB port down here at the bottom. And I tried to highlight that in the quick specs, is that if you come plopping down on a super hard surface, or you come down on a surface that's not very flat, maybe you get bad luck and a rock is over here on this side and it completely misses the foam padding, there is potential that you can damage the USB port. So that's something that you need to be aware of when you're flying yours around, is don't just plop it down. I know when we crash, we tend to disarm very quickly, and I had a number of crashes, and I had those crashes with my Insta360 Go 2 on there, and it survived just fine, no problems. My USB port still works out just fine. I did have this completely apart. This one does have a microphone down in it, but I did not have my goggles set. Typically, you know, the microphone's all fine and well, and I think if you're flying this at distance and you have an earpiece in, it kind of helps you maybe with the motors. I tend to fly close in so I can generally hear the quad unless I'm around the front side of the house. And so that may be something else as far as the different versions of this quad that you might be interested in, is this one does come with a microphone, and I believe it's the only one that you would get flight audio from. Of course, when you have an action camera on here, whether it's the Insta360 Go 2 or a naked GoPro or the SMO4K, they have their own audio. Whether you use that or like that, that's really up to you. Generally speaking, with micros, most people don't prefer that sound. The battery strap here, now this battery strap is much more hardy than we traditionally see. That silicone outer layer on it really does a nice job of keeping us from being able to tear this. I have torn, I couldn't tell you, so many styles of this when they're looped through here, and I went ahead and typically what I would do is I'd finagle things around so it wouldn't loop through, but I went ahead and used it this way because I wanted to, you know, put some force on it, give it some good testing. I had this once before on a much smaller quad, but on a heavier quad with a bigger battery, I really wanted to bear down on this. And so with that on the inside, it's not tacky, so don't think it's real sticky. It's actually kind of slick. but this battery pad is super tacky. I couldn't tell you how many times I put the batteries on here. I'd have to say at least 20 times. And you can see I've got some dirt and debris. I wonder if I can pick this up. Yep, I can pick that up with just the battery pad. It's slowly coming off. Ah, there it came loose. So their battery pads are really sticky nowadays. And that's a good thing because we don't want our battery jamming into our action camera if we were to have a crash, or coming loose in a worst case scenario. Maybe you're doing something silly and flying a tall building and you end up on a ledge. You don't want your battery disconnecting, so you have some possibility of recovering. Speaking of buildings and dives, I did those dives, but of course there could be limits to how well it does dives. You know, if you're going up a 40-story building and you're diving it all the way down, I really couldn't tell you what it's going to do. You know, I went... I think the biggest dive I did was probably about 20-25 feet above our chimney. That's kind of my measuring point, and then dove it down. When you try that with the bigger battery, and this is the reason why I went with the smaller battery for the faster, more aggressive flying, is you have to pull out earlier with the bigger battery, and you pretty much have to flatten out and full throttle in order to keep from hitting the ground, at least in my attempts. So for the more aggressive flights, I went with the lighter battery. I still got, you know, over 3 minutes of flight, which I think for most people is okay, but I know that there are people out there that really want the longest possible flight time. This is going to give you the longest possible flight time, but it's also going to give you the least agile flight. So don't plan on doing much sort of aggressive flying or freestyle or anything that you need to do recoveries from when you're going up, even from a modest height down. Having that extra weight on just a 2-inch prop, it's going to have an impact on it, so you need to be aware of that. Also, they just used 2 motor screws. I thought that was fairly interesting. And the TPU print here, I ended up taking all this apart. I think it was to unlock the VTX. Typically with most VTXs, you press the button on the VTX and you plug in the power and you hold the button down, or you plug in power and then you press and hold the button down for say 10 or 15 seconds. The instructions on their website, I didn't note it on my notes. I apologize for that, but I'm sure you can find it because they do have pretty good instructions on their website. FlyWoo also has a PID repository, so if you're looking for a Betaflight tune, I believe they have those all on their support website as well. I don't know if you can order it possibly with different colors. Maybe if you want all gray, or maybe you want orange and yellow. Maybe you have a favorite team or country color that you want to mix and match. Of course, they're in pairs, so you won't be able to do 4 different colors. I think they only have 3 colors anyways, but you could order these separately in order to do something with a little bit more style and flair. Now, if I had to do a guess on the price point, I would say it probably, for this version, is probably somewhere with the Crossfire, probably I would say $230 for right now. With pricing being what it is, with all of our components getting more expensive, I bet this is probably $230. I suspect the standard analog one is probably $190, maybe $199, and then the DJI version is probably pushing $300, $330. Because it's always, you know, $120 to $150 more than the analog version. So that's my price guess, but I will have links to FlyWoo's website along with whoever else might be selling this and the other versions of this down in the video description. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.